I'll put you on in the first round. I just hope you feel better. I'll have you read first, okay? What time is it now? 2:11.
Yeah, we'll start at 2:15. It's still
Yeah,
setting.
right.
It's still setting up the live stream. Okay, I think we're live now.
Mhm.
Okay, let's see. On the Zoom. Okay. Okay, and I've started up the recording again, so we're good to go.
Okay, very good. Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to. Yeah, I think we can start now. Right? Why not? Hello everybody. Welcome to Brownstone Poets. Happy New Year! It's a crazy year. Already started a lot of but we're here for poetry. We're here to let the democracy rule here. We're not going to agitate anybody. We're here with three fabulous features. We have Michael Broder, Allison Patty, and David Groff. And we have a fantastic open mic as usual. So open micers, okay, just want to let everybody know we have 3 minutes on the open mic. Anybody who has signed up is automatically put on the open mic list. And right now, just have yourselves muted until your time to read. And the chat room is for respectable comments. We don't want any agitation. So this is a safe space for poets. Please feel free to give your shameless plugs. Promote your books, promote your upcoming readings. Thank you. And we're going to start now. We sort of have like the first 10 people on the open. Then we're going to have features 1 and 2. That would be Michael Broder and Allison Patty. And then we're going to have a 15-minute break. And when Roxanne returns, we're going to have the next 10 people to read on the open. And then we're going to end, we're going to have David Groff as our third feature. And then we're going to finish up with the remaining open mic. So there are technically 3 rounds for the open. Okay, we're going to start with John McMullen, Ron Bremer, Patty Ross, Lynette Rapsett, Ron Combe, Harvey Sauce, Austin Alexis, Michael Lombarda, and Amy's not here. Is Amy here? No, I guess not. Is Patty Ross here? Okay. Okay. Carol, okay, we're going to start with Caroline Di Giovanni. Okay, so John McMullen, please unmute and share. I know you have to leave early. Unmute, John. John, unmute. I don't hear you. Can we unmute John?
No, he has to unmute himself.
John, you need to unmute.
I did.
Okay, yay. Okay, start. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Can you hear me right now?
Yeah, we hear you.
Can you
Okay.
start your video?
Yep.
Okay?
Dry season. Many writers have stages of what's called dry periods.
And we don't
Blocks of
see your
time they're
video.
unproductive.
Can you start your video?
Oh, God.
He
I
can't.
can't do both on his tablet, Pat.
He's got a problem. Can we let
That's
it
about
go?
it. Dry season. Many writers have stages of what are called dry periods, blocks of time that they're unproductive. In the time I've been writing for publication, perhaps 36 years, I've had few, if any. I certainly had none in 28 years. I've been writing poetry, thousands of poems, multi-hundred published, 14 books published, until last November when I fell and broke my hip. It is now the end of January, and this offering is my first. It was first in a hospital for an operation. And then at a rehab center to restore my basic skills. It's a nice place with competent staff, nice friendly support people, single rooms with large screen 50-channel TVs, terrible food, mood services and activities, and it's in my home. So my wife comes in daily bringing food, books, and a puppy. And it's the first poem that I've written in all that time. First, for at least a month, the only thoughts were of pain and survival. Then for over a month, I would occasionally think I should be writing, but it would be too much trouble. Then for a short period, I began to think of topics that would make good poems, but never write it. But now I wrote this. I hope you like it. And if you don't, it means I'm back. Thank you, and that's all I've written.
Thank you.
3 I've sent us so far.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for sharing, and thank you. Good luck with your therapy and all that. Good luck. Feel better. We love you. Okay. Next up, we're gonna have Ron Bremmer. Then after that, Patty Ross, Lynette Rapsett, Ron Combe, Harvey Sauce, Austin Alexis, Michael Lombardo, Caroline Di Giovanni. Okay, Ron Bremmer, please unmute and share.
Yeah, so sorry to hear about that, John, and I'm really glad that you're recovering and getting back to normal. After about 6 years of being rejected by the platform review, they finally this year accepted 2 of my poems. I was really shocked, and there was one philosophical poem and one Dada poem, and I'm going to read the Dada poem now. I don't know why the video went off. When silence rears its broken nose, yellow clouds fall from the sky where an airplane was tomorrow. A question of ignorance was swallowed when politicians ate brass knuckles that had rusted from acid rain. A woman carried a solid gold diaper and a see-through hammer under her arm. Seeking shelter from the storm, her minister told her was coming. Doorbells squat on an exercise mat. A doctor challenges my house to a duel. Crossword puzzles bleed without warning. Serious strangers await a decision. A courtroom erupts in cheers. A judge sits on a hypodermic needle. A plumber inspects judicial robes for leaks. Thank you and have a pleasant day.
Lynette, unmute and share. You're next.
Thank you. 2 very short pieces. The first one is called Ugly Faces. There is no such thing as an ugly face, because regardless of the case, beauty is a beholder thing. People who focus on looks are tiring. We should look more at ugly minds, disgruntled characters who deceive and are unkind, thieves and liars and confusion makers, slithering tongues and indecent fakers. A face is just an outer package because inside people carry heavy baggage. Beauty or ugliness are just descriptions. Living your life right is the best prescription. The second piece is called Family Tree. She was battered. Each limb told a tale on her behalf of brothers and sisters, the cousin in Kansas that was winter worn and tattered, the uncle in the Virgin Islands who we remember because a hurricane uprooted him. We'll never forget the sister in Grenada whose leaves were rekindled in the spring. We remember the aunt in the Bahamas who grew from a seed that a bird pooped out. This tree stands tall, weathered by time and worry, a statement that nature, so pure and so constant, reveals that our humanity is for a time. Thank you so much.
Good to hear you. Thank you, Lynette. Hi, beautiful. Thank you. Wow. Brownstone's rule. Okay, we're gonna have the other Ron Combe. And then after Ron, we're gonna have Harvey Sauce, Austin Alexis, Michael Lombardata, Caroline Di Giovanni, Jack Cooper, and we're gonna end around with first round with Elizabeth Moss. Okay, take it away, Ron Combe.
Thank you, Patricia. Want to wish everyone a happy new year in this strange time. Best of luck to everyone. Pushing buttons in Silicon Valley. I was trying to get the elevator to move, but I wasn't having much luck. I was hoping to meet Elon Musk and find out more about his warning that killer robots are more dangerous than Kim Jong-un. It finally kicks into gear and rumbles unsteadily up to the 13th floor, where I discover a diorama of speeding Tesla sedans. I pretend I'm in one and leave that building as fast as I can. Star-Spangled Disaster. A large ocean-going freighter lost power and drifted towards the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore, crashing into it and causing it to collapse into an artistic tangle of steel. The name of the boat was Dali, so it hit me that perhaps Salvador was trying to reach out to us from beyond the grave in an effort to keep his art alive. But workmen finally arrived and removed the wreckage, leaving nothing. And it turns out that that boat was named after Salvador Dali. The people who owned that boat had two boats that were actually named after artists, which was interesting. Anyhow, thank you so much, Patricia, for everything. You're wonderful. Thank you.
And thank you, Ron. Thank you so much for sharing. Oh my God. Here we go. We're going to have Harvey Sauce, and after Harvey, we're going to have Austin Alexis. Take it away and unmute, Harvey.
Okay, am I unmuted?
Yeah, we hear you.
Okay, two new ones. I, Rocinante, epigraph, with an equine nod to Marlon Brando in On the Waterfront. If that bastard Cervantes, who had never carried anything heavier than a pen, hadn't saddled me with this dickless Don Quixote whose addled brain demanded just one more charge up the hill, followed by one more ad infinitum until my hooves were sore, I could have been a contender, Charlie. A Bucephalus, favorite warhorse of no less than Alexander the Great, or a winged Pegasus, lend-leased the golden fleece for use as a saddle blanket by Jason and his Argonauts, a gesture of solidarity between man and beast. With yours truly, just the horse that Richard III would have traded England for, by far a sturdier ride than that carpentered mule Homer planted at the gates of Troy. But no, that ass end of a centaur Cervantes, blinded by my light, had to pair me with a schmo. Our foe? A windmill so arthritic it couldn't turn and run. It had to stand and fight. And despite its woodenness, it still got the best of the Spaniard, as the Moors had done. Who tilts at a windmill, I ask you? Is it too unkind to call such a duelist a retard? Will I be canceled for even thinking it? Brood mares now view me as they would a hobby horse, good for playing around with, but you wouldn't let one mount you. I could have gotten laid, Charlie, if I'd sported a genuine warrior on my back, laid in the shade and green pastures where dreams and foals are made, but I Bridled by the witless, one was conscripted into the service of a fool, a ding-dong of a Don whose rusty armor clanked as we charged the mill's defenses, threatening to grind us into sad sacks of flour power, its whirling arms, numerous as those of a Hindu goddess, brushing aside his thrusts, as had that girl, Dulcinea, who spit the bit and thus denied him. Second one is called Valedictory of a Pinata. Is it fair that they beat the sweets out of me while others, not so sweet, run free, bully boys whacking me with a stick as if I were a wasp's nest? Where are the protest marches on my behalf, the closure of bridges to vehicular traffic, speeches addressed to legislative bodies entirely too eager to join in the fun, both sides of the aisle, Democrats and Republicans, having raised their hands at one time or another to whack me one? An employment of time that might have been better spent condemning the violence inherent in whack-a-mole. May the curiously sweet teeth of my assailants result in rolls of belly fat beyond the redress of liposuction, their hopes and dreams dry up as further proof of climate change. And may the root canals of sugar addicts experiencing the pain of child loss become hooked on Novocaine. To all those who claim to love me for my inner self, hear this: my chocolate kisses are not for you.
Thank you. Thank you, Harvey. Yay. Okay, that was Harvey. And next up we have Austin Alexis. After Austin, we're gonna have Michael Lombambarda, Caroline DiGiovanni, Jack Cooper, and Elizabeth Moss to end the first round. Take it away, Austin.
Hi, everyone. Only the moon. The moon hangs out over my dull neighborhood. That circle's going to get brighter as the night wears on. I like it. I hang with it, tilting my head upward, just so. Don't tell me it's merely a rock approximately the size of Australia. Don't call it a bleak place where astronauts dump used equipment. Don't diss it with the label of desert, gray desert, dust desert, with a disco light trained on it. Yes, it's bright, explosion bright, blazing like a bright, crude smile of a sexually turned on teenager. But I won't shade my eyes to it, won't stop romanticizing it, will always see it as a symbol of the great truths lurking beneath the skin of life. When I glance up at it, I never forget it's the same glowing ball Dante reverently monitored. Aesop surely witnessed and Hannibal used to guide his travels. Supermoon or half moon, I'm aware that luminous satellite is the identical haunting disk Cleopatra spotted when she cocked her head skyward, striving to connect to the cosmos. Thank you.
Thank you, Austin. Fantastic. Good to have you here. Okay, next up, we're going to have Michael Lombambarda, and after him will be Caroline DiGiovanni, Jack Cooper, and Elizabeth Moss. Take it away, Michael.
Michael, this is from my latest book, Crying Blood and Other Poems, and this is the title poem, Crying Blood. Walk out like somebody suddenly born into color is a line from the poet Rumi. But in my poem, you walk like a cloud, shifting shapes on the horizon of my vision, because whenever I think of you and try to describe you, the words like vapor disappear and the ink in my pen runs dry and the paper I write on is stained with blood. because I cry blood, not tears. My life is an attempt to run away from the silence I hear from you. Speechless, I let the moon explain me. And the next poem is called Written in Holy Apostles Writing Workshop. Seeing you has brought me to this crossroad of happiness, supplanting the dire frustration of sitting alone in this white circular gazebo with a book of poems for my heart's solace. But does the weather issue another chance as I witness nature's unending colorful mime? Will you join me, Patricia, in autumn's mime that leaves all to accident a ticket of chance? We smile and laugh, our hearts mild sedative, yet lack passionate fulfillment in the parks and vines. Thank God that we do not feel sour frustration, but are joyful with joie de vivre. When discovering our joie de vivre, unconscious thoughts belie hidden motives. So why shall we not as well all move into a trailer camp, living off nectar and ambrosia in a beer can? Not to refuse this offering is our intention, and to live in harmony with all in a blue tribe. To live in harmony in the world in a blue canyon and leave nothing to mystery, to a vagrant's pet. Joy is the solution to our melancholy intoxications. Why the sadness of buds and shots in the garden? Tuesdays bring unwanted sadness to our eyes. Let us satisfy our thirst in flourishing fountains and make a festive boast to those passing clouds. Let's build again a Tower of Babel to our gods. Let us forever be the men and women we idolize and not settle for second-hand earthly fulfillments in base pleasures designed to forget ourselves. Do not write a sad ending to your life sentence. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michael. Thank you. Okay, next up, we're going to have Caroline Di Giovanni from Canada. It's a separate country. Remember, Canada is not America, United States. Thank you. Take it away. Caroline? You're muted.
There, I forgot. Now I'm on. Okay. Very briefly, we acknowledge the land is traditional territory of many nations, including Mississaugas of the Credit, Anishinaabe, Chippewa, Haudenosaunee, and Wendat peoples, and home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis. That's where we started out. And now here we are. My poem, though, is moved by all the fires in California. What a terrible disaster. So the title, Hollywood Ashes. This is not a movie set. No director will call cut. Special effects do not exist. We who work in fantasy are caught up in actual hell. The writers can't redo the script. All the laptops melted in the flames. Our only heroes in these scenes wear heavy helmets and oxygen tanks. The planes in the sky have been to the ocean to fill their tanks with seawater, only to drop their payload like turning a spoon over the raging landscape below. To worsen the fire, the wind relentlessly attacks like a squadron of bombers flying in two directions. This video is nothing like an over-budget TV series or even a weekly special. Our lives have been destroyed, our hearts and minds broken. But just as the embers cool, we start to feel the pulse to create. The sparks of art will never be put out. Give us a moment to hope. Then we will start to work again. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you. Too much going on this year. Okay, next up we have Paris in the house. Bonjour.
Bonjour,
Bon
bonsoir.
nuit.
en fait,
What's up? Take it away,
okay.
Jacques.
Yes, this is called In Midst. It has a brief epigraph from the Ode on a Grecian Urn, in midst of other woe. Does my love hesitate for fear to lose? Unopened letters, telephone unused, unrun to, left, kept ringing. Death, not my own. Denaturation, inevitable, possibly forestalled, forcibly abides. Anticipated endings have I long since, first notion aggrieved. Answer, assurances supply. Never thought asking, except blank repeats. Woe conceives, yet beginning. Hope fashions a seawall, tides seldom reach. Grief forfends, fairly breaks. Alone, word relents. Imaginable view, extravagance, the purblind eye represents. Look, dares in spite. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup. Merci
Ah.
beaucoup, Jacques. Okay.
Je vous en prie.
Ah. Okay, last for the first round, first of the 3 rounds of the open, we have Elizabeth Moss, Happy Catterday.
Happy
Take it away.
Saturday to all. Okay. Snow. Intricate roots call me, spreading their wisdom like spirited wind. Snow brings new weather through the iron gates of the churchyard. Tiny stars catch in branches, then turn to bits of ice. With gloved hands, children giggle as they throw snowballs. The wisdom of roots is buried in an unknown language, one that luminescent angels translate and speak through ice. I call on the stars for help and listen while they send celestial crystals. Children build snow bears and dogs that guard the gates at sunset. Intricate tree branches overhead speak like lace and spread peace everywhere. Do I have time for another one or?
Yes.
Okay. Transgressions. You are a sinner spinning in a snow globe. You have consorted with shadows who have broken through a wall. Intoxicated, you stay up late, watching the silent flakes fall. They taste like the frozen ghosts you left behind long ago. Window panes reflect the past, leaving light to argue with the future. In the morning, you pack and trudge toward the light. What could really be ahead? Will it still be unbending night? Thank you.
Hi, okay. Okay, we're gonna have, somebody sent me a message. 1 second, guys. Okay. Beautiful. Okay. Okay, we're gonna, before we move on to our feature 1 and 2, I'm just gonna mention round 2. A lot of people did not show up today. We're gonna have Judith Reutemann, Glenda Pickens, Charles Colbean, Ken Holland, Walter Holland, Susan Murray, Beth S.K. Morris, and Mike Jakovic for this round. A lot of people didn't show up today. Sad. Okay, let me move on to the features 1 and 2. Okay, let me just do something here. View as a speaker. Okay. Michael Broda. Michael Broda is the author of the poetry collections Drug and Disease, Free, and This Life Now, a finalist for the Lambada Literary Award for Gay Poetry. His poems have appeared most recently in Cimarron Review, To Horatio, Word for Word, Right Hand Pointing, and One Sentence Poem. Michael is the founding publisher of Indolent Books, a boutique literary press that focuses on innovative, provocative, and risky work by writers over 50, without the first book, Women, People of Color, and Queer Writers. He lives in Brooklyn. Yay, Brooklyn, here we go. And we want to welcome to the podium, Michael Broda. Take it away.
Thank you, Patricia. And thank you and Roxanne for maintaining this series and for everyone who comes to it and makes it a series. The only thing I'm going to shamelessly promote, and I'm putting it in the chat right now, that's a link to a particular, I'm doing yet another, for those of you who know my history of Poem a Day series in response to political happenings. I started a new one called Second Coming, which is the successor to What Rough Beast. So What Rough Beast had a poem for every day of the Trump administration, well, the first Trump administration. So Second Coming is going to continue this with the same thing for all 1,400 and some odd days of the second Trump administration. So what I posted was today's poem, and it's on the Indolent Books website. It's also on my Substack. So I posted the link to the version that comes from my Substack. You can enjoy the poem. You can, if you want to subscribe, everything I do is free. Like, you can pay to subscribe if you want to support me in the press, but you also get everything if you don't subscribe, if you're not a paid subscriber. And there's also a link where you can that will take you to a page that tells you how to submit either poetry, or I'm also saying flash prose because, I do know prose writers and they might want to contribute to something like this as well. So with that having been said, I'm going to read some poems. Oh, and I didn't start. See, I always do that. I have a timer, but I didn't start it. Some of these, a lot of time went by when I wasn't really feeling up to writing, years, in fact. So in putting this reading together and readings that I've been doing lately, I kind of indicate like when they're from, kind of for me as well as for you, to get a sense of like, I have written a little. Anyway, this poem originated as an Instagram post on May 29th, 2024. And it's called What Spiritual Meant. I didn't think I knew what spiritual meant, but I knew I had died some years ago, and I wondered how I had died. I had not died physically or mentally, and yet I had died. And then I got it. I had died spiritually. So that's what spiritual meant. That part of me that had died, that was my spirit. So that suggests I've been having a rough time with things lately. And this poem continues in that vein. So Julie Enzer, the publisher of Sinister Wisdom, is now one of my authors for her most recent collection of poems, The Pink Okami Dyke. And she did a reading at the BGSQD for that book on June 5th, 2024. And I began while I was like introducing her and other readers, I began to notice some alarming kind of serious anxiety symptoms. So that's what this poem is about. Getting on the A train after Julie's reading. This is from June 5th, 2024. It occurs to me that I'm broken. I'm coming from Julie's reading at the queer bookstore at the Gay Center, which was a wonderful success. But I have brain fog and a headache and a lot of muscle tension. I kept it together in terms of introducing the poets, sort of, but I felt like I was underwater. I apologized to the audience as I felt my speech slurring, trouble finding some words, choosing the wrong word once or twice mispronouncing a word. Julie and I went out for a bite to eat afterwards, and I felt myself descending into that way I used to be, that I thought I was finally recovering from, where I wasn't manic, I wasn't oversharing, I wasn't over talking. Hyperverbalism, they call it, in the articles about panic and anxiety. And I was making sense tonight, but I was also forgetting things, getting people mixed up. I sat down next to the lesbian prose writer Lisa E. Davis, who lives in Greenwich Village, and thought she was Celeste Gainey, the lesbian poet who lives in Pittsburgh. Now, waiting for the A train at 14th Street to get home to Bed-Stuy, I'm thinking that I'm broken. I'm self-conscious. I wonder the extent to which Julie or anyone can see there's something wrong with me. And now getting on the A train, I think you're not supposed to think of yourself as broken, right? It's very anti-disability rights to think of yourself as broken, right? We're just different. We're neurodivergent. We're post-traumatic, right? We're all fine, right? But I don't feel fine. I feel broken. It's comforting to think I'm broken. It's comforting to think because, excuse me, it's comforting to think I'm broken because if I'm broken, maybe I can be fixed. It's comforting to think I can be fixed. Oh, this is a one-line poem. It's not a one-sentence poem. It's actually two sentences. Chlamydia. It sounds like a flower. This poem was created on August 29th, 2024 at 9:52 a.m. That's just what it says. I guess that's the title. Okay, 20 years ago. You keep saying 20 years ago. It isn't even true, but it sounds good, like the greatest generation or the silent generation, something you can, something or other. The damage that was done. How nice the slow cadence of this pen across this page. How much better dashes than periods. I'm not waiting for inspiration. I'm just sitting here. Imagine if that were true. If that could be enough. You want these letters to cohere into spirits. Imagine if you had no need. If you could finally just let go. This doesn't have a date on it, but it's called Erev Rosh Hashanah. And I believe it was Rosh Hashanah 2023, not last year, the year before, at the, what's it called? The Masons place in like the Times Square Midtown area where organizations often, CBST, the Lesbian and Gay Synagogue in New York, had their some of their Rosh Hashanah services there. Yom Kippur is generally at the Javits Center. But anyway, Erev Rosh Hashanah. And some of you or many of you may know that I was married to a poet for 20 years and a gay male poet, same-sex marriage, and we split over a few years ago. So some of my poetry is about that. Erev Rosh Hashanah. Erev means the night before. It's the first night of the Jewish New Year. As the cantor intoned the first prayer tonight, my mind body reached for your hand. I wanted to take your hand, hold your hand, which is not to say I still loved you. Rather, it meant you were a craving, a kind of habit, something I wanted even though it was bad for me, something I did even though it hurt me. I had decided on you for the long haul, for the duration, to use the phrase my mom used of my dad's army years in the Pacific. He enlisted and they got married in October 1941. She would tell me the story of how they rode on a train together, 4 nights and 3 days, she would say, from New York to El Paso, where my dad was doing basic training at Fort Bliss, and how, after Pearl Harbor, they shipped him off to Hawaii for the duration. I'm sorry, you can't see the italics. That's my mother talking. They shipped him off to Hawaii for the duration, which proved to be 4 years. So in 1942, she came back to New York, 20 years old, married, alone. When my dad died of colon cancer in 1972, just past 50, my mom said she would pretend he was in the service, away for the duration. Funny how duration means as long as it lasts, but is related to the word endurance, which means something like sticking it out despite. Despite, just like that, standing by itself. No object complement, just not despite the rain or despite the crowds, just sticking it out despite. That's the only way I can think of it. That's the only way it feels true. Where am I doing? Okay, 6 minutes in. So this is really old. In 1998 or so, this is dated September 9th, 1998. In a composition notebook every morning, I would write something called a quantity counts poem. I think I was reading Julia Cameron's The Artist's Way at the time. So I was coming up with like techniques to get myself to write on a more regular basis. So this is quantity counts poem 34. It's one of my like romantic 90s hanging out with boys poems. Curled beside me, whose name I don't remember. whose soft white flesh I strolled last night, like a beach where I felt no longer so alone. How will I greet you? What will I say when you awaken? Okay, I don't read this a lot. I don't know if I've ever read it really in public. It's not new at all, but I always felt a little awkward about it. It's a poem for Zachary DeLorean, who is the son of John DeLorean. Everyone, I mean, it's called Back to the Future, actually, so that may help jog some memories. The car maker who made the DeLorean, and that was the car that was used in Back to the Future. So Zachary was one of my Latin students when I taught at the Steiner School back in like 1987, 88, 89. And it was a very troubled family. And Zachary was a very sweet boy, but a very troubled boy because he came from this very troubled family. So when I heard about John DeLorean dying, whatever year that was, I like immediately thought of Zachary. So this is for Zachary DeLorean, Back to the Future. He's dead, that man you tried to touch, though he receded to the horizon like a mirage. He is dead, that man you tried to inhabit, though he fell away like a spent rocket. He is dead, that man you tried to contain, though he dissipated like air in a vacuum. He is dead, that man you sought, that man you fled, who offered no shelter, though you shivered, exposed. He is dead, that man who was a child, though you were a child, and that made no sense to you, and you were right all along. Okay, this is something I'm quite proud of. It appeared in Court Green in 2014. It's a sonnet called Delivering the News. It was inspired by an op-ed piece in the Times about the military person who goes, and it was during the Iraq War, the military person who has to go deliver the news of a service person's having died, goes to the next of kin, right? Delivering the news. I had to slow down to check the numbers, but I didn't need to go that slow. When I found it, clapboard, shutters, split rail fence, I sat in the car until the song ended. Then I walked up and tapped, light as I could. She saw me in my dress greens, and she knew. Like always, I knew from her eyes, the way she held her breath, and I kept saying, "Ma'am, I need to come in." And she kept saying, "I'm sorry, but I can't let you in." And a breeze kicked up the leaves in the driveway. A cloud passed in front of the sun, and I smelled coffee brewing in the house. That was it. Me standing there in my dress, excuse me. That was it. Me standing there in my dress greens. She knew. Another sonnet, a little more lighthearted. This is about my ex in the years before we decided to split up. When we first moved to Fort Greene. It's called I Married a Slob. It's a very regular sonnet. I married a slob. They pile up in hazardous profusion, your t-shirts, tank tops, underwear, and socks. Our linens mix in riotous confusion with gym bags, sweatpants, combination locks. The laundry hamper blocks the closet door, and though he won't admit it to the gloom, the spider crawling on the parquet floor beneath the bed has never seen a broom. To Lefferts Boulevard, far Rockaway, the sunlight gleaming on its silvery back. From subway darkness bursting into day, the A train clatters on its rumbling track. I slip my key into the padlocked door. Love's whisper lulls the world's chaotic roar. Okay, I guess we're on an X roll here. This is entitled Really Bitchy Poem About My Ex. It's relatively recent. I go back and forth on whether to read it or not, but I'm reading it now. It's kind of a prose poem at this point. It's also kind of serious in a way, but you'll see. My friend has a rare form of leukemia, and they wrote about it in the New York Times. Really more a neighbor than a friend. Once, long ago, over 30 years ago, I lived in a tenement on 4th between A and B, and Frank lived a floor below me with his partner, a visual artist from Germany. Frank played trumpet in a klezmer band that had queer and activist overtones and became quite famous. I went to their wedding at the Socrates Sculpture Park in Astoria. I went down to their apartment when Frank was sitting Shiva for his father. And for some reason, I think of my ex, what he would have thought about the New York Times running a feature about Frank's storied musical career and his rare form of leukemia. My ex once became enraged when a poet friend with breast cancer ran a GoFundMe to pay for alternative treatments her health insurance would not approve. He was angry that she was asking her friends on Facebook to pay for quackery when her insurance would have covered perfectly good Western medicine. To some extent, I think his rage was a mask for his despair. His mother had died 9 years earlier of complications from surgery for a medical condition she had neglected for decades. I think my ex saw the poet friend's choice as a capitulation of sorts to mortality, a betrayal of life that reminded him of his own mother's untimely death. But I think my ex would approve of the article about Frank in the New York Times. I think my ex would make a mental note to make every effort to get the New York Times to run a story about him if he were ever dying of a rare cancer. He might even write a sonnet about it. Okay, so I got about 3 more minutes. So there's 2 poems here that kind of go back to the olden days, to like the books that I published in the 2000s. And since I'm going to run out of time, I'm going to read this one first. It's the title poem from Drug and Disease Free. And so the title is Drug and Disease Free Seeks Same for Safe, Sane Sex. And some of you may know, and others of you might not know, that's a parody, or that's really language that was often used in hookup classified ads at the back of like what we called bar rags and gay, bars and so forth, and coffee shops and, in Chelsea. Drug and Disease Free Seeks Same for Safe, Sane Sex. It began in 1990 when she was 35. They found a program in Italy that did sperm washing. She would take drugs in New York to stimulate egg production. When she was ready, they would fly to Italy. He would produce a semen sample at a medical center in Milan that washed the sperm. But they did not do in vitro fertilization, which she needed because her fallopian tubes were blocked. So she would go to a center in Bologna. He would meet her there by train, a 2.5-hour ride, with his washed sperm in a vacuum flask. They did this many, many times. Finally, they received a fax saying the program was being shut down. They could no longer help them. In the first week of 1997, he died of liver disease. She had a small quantity of his semen saved. A doctor in New York helped her. She conceived on the second try. Her son was born on June 6th, 1999. Neither mother nor baby is infected. She may do it again. She has a little sperm left. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Fantastic. Thank you. Yay, she had a little sperm left. Good for her. Yay. Glad it worked out. Okay, next up we have Allison Patty in the house. Allison Patty is the author of Jalousie, Tupelo Press 2025, winner of the 2023 Berkshire Prize. Recent publications include Poems in Denver Quarterly's Fives, Poetry, The Recluse, the Yale Review, and Nonfiction in the Baffler. A 2017 NYFA Artist Fellow in Poetry, and a participant in the Lower Manhattan Cultural Council's 2017-2018 Workspace Program. Allison Patty is a co-founding editor of Singing Soul Press, works at NYU Gallatin, and photographs her garbage trash days on Instagram. Let's give a warm Brownstone welcome to Allison Patty. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Trisha. It's lovely to be here, and was so nice to hear little snippets of many of your work, and a bit more from you, Michael. I look forward to hearing more after the break. Thank you, Roxanne, and also a final thanks to my college poetry teacher, Scott Hightower, who kind of connected me with the series. So it's really lovely to spend the afternoon with you all. I'm going to read some of the poems from my first book, which, as Trisha mentioned, is coming out this spring. It's called Jalousie. And yeah, there's a lot. The poems were written over maybe 10 to 15 years. So there's a lot of different work in the book, but today I'm going to read some of the more, I think, autobiographical New York City driven poems in honor of the Brownstone series. In medias res. With 2 fingers, mother lifted my chin, cleaned from my face the last of the blood, Nosebleeds a chore I was learning to tend on my own. I learned the word prone. 2 fingers, light pressure, tilted my face up to the sky, smeared my lips in Vaseline. I shut my eyes to receive not quite so much sun. Eyelids pink and flickering wash. I liked it more than ocean or buildings or everything passing sideways outside. What I wanted to know was, what do the blind see? Is it static? Is it what I see when I imagine nothing? Sometimes white space, otherwise black. At the center of the bridge, high ridge and contour of the land past the banks, my father, without fail, imagined sailing onto this, Lenape Hills, 1609, Henry Hudson on the half mean. Vision opens, out, out. Then Manhattan, the car subsumed, a knife of sky, no horizon. That was childhood, then childhood was over. One image gone from the skyline. There was the war. We put our bodies in the street a few hours, a few times a year. Then we stopped. Block by block, the walk-ups gone from Yorkville. The idea of home without purchase on the feeling. Crossing each day the river, not a true river, it runs back and forth. I stare into the fact of others, just the fact. Lights turn on in a room across the street. Someone's visible inside. Standing on the roof, my face and the face of the buildings, I say, my city, my gaze, no, the body, the city, the face with its eyes. Under the bald sun, they pass through one another, not a horse through a field, but weather in an afternoon. The condition of place inside a body, city, a barrage of surfaces, dark, illumined. In the screen of my phone, my chin reflected, I spoke American English, was a woman paid in dollars, forces continuous around me, as space is, as air. Where to see is to have at a distance. What populates vision is things made and not yet remains. I touch my phone, not sheets of plastic and cadmium. I touch the screen, not copper threads. Where vision began and ended was medias res. At night, the trash I left on the curb, sunrise, the sound of a truck idling downstairs. Pink and flickering wash of eyelids, hello blood inside the face. A crushing sound in the hopper, and then it goes. 2 fingers, I touch my phone. Hello, mother, hello. I dreamed a word that meant a break in the weaving. I dreamed the word for a splinter between weft and warp. It came from Old German. I saw it in the frame of the preloaded dictionary, and a set broke in the middle. The dream went no further than the bounds of the window, which bore a faint gingham check, as in a screen seen through a lens. Wherever there's a surface, a quarry, a gash, how to address the thing at it which one is looking, as across the centuries, text takes you in. When tilted through waking, eyes still bleary and slow. In English, the burning city Hecuba dreams in my hand. Come man with cup and hard luck pitch. Upstream the brunch rush shines upon our heads. I take in text like water into bread. Small change across a counter, the marble top fake, which makes it no less real, no more, no less made. This was to be. This was to be a poem about leisure, about postures of diversion and those of a person at work. From the couch, I was watching Blow Up, a film for me principally about white jeans slashing green expanses of lawn. In one hand, I had Crasdale puffed rice with real cocoa, an embarrassing purchase, but to admit it does not make me vulnerable. I work for a university. At this time of year, we're invited to gatherings with huge amounts of cheese. The abundance, I think, is not a guess at how much will be consumed, but an investment against the look of a platter mostly eaten. With my fingers on a sliver of Comte, I think, what I touch has been inside the body of a cow. And now in this carpeted room, milk being quotation from grass, are pastures of the Jura. It's the labor of those who pay tuition that spreads their verdure within me. In my poem about leisure, I remember a Lucy Ives poem that begins, "To all other things, what I prefer most is thinking what I really think." When at work, I feel I am excused from needing a personality. I come and go while time remains neutral, remains indifferent. My boss can't tolerate play as it lays because the characters, she says, have no inner life. A savor of poolside and tears is all I've retained. Forgetting is de facto a kind of refusal, but regarding my own involvement, no sentence waves the banner of my heart like Bartleby's I would prefer not to. Without his rigorous abstention, that is, without opting de facto to die, it is a stance through which I wink at my stance, an emblem on a tote that holds my gym shoes and lunch. In the locker room, two ladies discuss someone named Barb, who is said to drink iced coffee while working out is not the worst. From the shower, I hear one say to the other, "When someone tells me something I want to do, I believe it." And I think I'll end with the last poem in the book, which is the title poem, Jealousy. If you're interested in learning more, I will put the link here in the chat. It'll be out this spring. And thanks again, everyone, for listening. Jealousy. Rock-like in the blind's bright dark dyad, I intervene. Elegiac couplets cross one cheek, the other tilts from its own cool, splotched against sunlit floor. 6 days I've been indoors, wearing this sweatshirt. I tire of it and wear it inside out. Would that I could turn my very skin and call on all things to bear their linings as a second face. In a dream, I'm clothed in dirt and ether, wet by famous tears. The heroes weep as often as they fight on the Aegean, where sand is ground by telling. Repetition on geologic scale spreads a version of the Rockaways under my Achilles, who sulks, then grieves. Would that there were a third side to flip onto. I tan, I burn, until death this object lesson in presence. As a kid, I'd look across a clean cement courtyard to TVs constellated in the next building's windows. I want from the shade, not jealous guarding, but a medium, a slat beheads my landlord's swan-shaped planting pot, and I resolve the view, unstriped and entire. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Allison. Thank you so much. Okay, we're gonna go on our 15-minute break. And after we come back, you can unmute and schmooze. You can put all your books, you can put all your information about your books, your upcoming readings in the chat room. You can talk to everybody. And after 15 minutes, we're gonna come back after Roxy returns with the next, with round 2 of the Open. That's Judith Rossman, Glenda Pickens, Charles Cobean, Ken Holland, Walter Holland, Susan Murray, Beth S.K. Morris, and Mike Jakovic. And then we're going to, after that, round two of the open, we're gonna have the final feature, who will be David Groff. And after David Groff is finished, which is reading, we're gonna have the remaining, in round three of the open mic, who will be, let's see who's left here. Josephine LeRae, Helene Fisher, Dorothy Cantwell, myself, and Roxanne. Or anybody I missed or come on late, I'll have you read. Okay, enjoy your break. You can unmute yourselves, guys. Please feel free to share, okay? Okay, oh, so you're here. Okay, great, okay. Okay, oh, great. On the screen here, let me see. Oh, I see you. Okay, great, fantastic. Okay, so we'll have you read in the second round when we come back. Okay. Oh, great. Okay, thanks. Bye-bye. See you later. We're on our break now. Ron Brownstone, hope to see you soon. Bye. Poets, just to let you know what we're on. Brownstone Poets, just to let you know, we are on at 917-679-5002. Okay, talk to you later. Bye. Okay. Hi, guys.
Are we ready to come back on? Let me just get the live stream back going again.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. I resumed the recording.
Okay, hi, welcome back to the last part of Brownstone Poets. We're gonna have round 2 of the open mic. We have Judith Rothman, Glenda Pickens, Charles Colbean, Ken Holland, Peter Kozlowski, Walter Holland, Susan Murray, Beth S.K. Morris, and Mike Jakovic for round 2. And then after round 2, we're going to have final feature, David Groth. And after David Groth finishes his feature, we're going to have the remaining round 3 of the open mic, who will be, let's see, whoever's here. Josephine LeRae, Helene Fisher, Dorothy Cantwell, myself, and Roxanne. Okay, we're gonna start. Remember, it's 3 minutes for the open. Judith, if you're not reading, please mute. Okay, Judith, please unmute and share.
Thank you. It's nice to be back. What I'm doing is there's this book, Theravada Poems of the First Buddhist Women, and it's translated by Charles Halsey. And the other translations running around. And I've been going through it and kind of doing erasure and doing riffs and looking at the transcriptions of the transliteration of the Pali and working with that and doing randomization of key words and coming up with poems from this book, which is really wonderful. You should read the book. It's called Theravada Poems of the First Buddhist Women by Charles Halsey. But these are sort of, I don't know how to put it. They're not the Theravada, they're whatever they are. And I'm thinking it as a book called The Regatta. Okay. So I'll just read 3 poems from it. Distortion, betrayal. In what mirror? The 7 oozing liquids, the 7 wings of awakening. Focus, rest, dissolve. Proud vulva, schemer of ornaments, heart of illusion, sneering beauty. Drunk, I was thrown away, my whore's heart, my beauty. Now seated, head shaved, ties cut, cool, free. What you want, wanting. Look at me, look. Nothing, look, nothing. Shifting, transparent, nothing. Done. Thank you.
Very, very nice. I love the haiku-esque approach of your poetry. Thank you so much for sharing. And come again. Okay, up next is Glenda Pickens, who's going to be one of our features next in March. And then after Glenda, we're going to have Charles, Ken, Peter, Walter, Susan, Beth, and Mike. Okay, take it away, Glenda, and share.
Thank you, Patricia. I wanted to also thank Caroline for writing that beautiful poem about the fires. I am here in California. and have seen the devastation and had some dear friends and relatives lose their homes. So thank everybody that's been praying for the state and for each one that you might know. So I decided, with everything that's going on in the world today, that I would write something about love. And I wrote a poem about one true love that I hope will touch your heart and help you to remember that one true love that you had in your life. When I close my eyes, I can see a vision of you walking toward me, taking my hand in yours while the music plays on. Secrets whispered in your long and sweet, tender kisses. Your tongue tasting the sweat in the middle of my chest. Memories of long ago buried in my soul. Since we parted ways and death took you to the grave, the song you wrote for me is forever etched in my memory. What would have become of us, B and G, if we could have just cast aside the one hindrance keeping us from commitment? Stay together for our eternal purpose and our pleasure. But I know that you know I have never filled that hole that remains in my heart for my one true love who departed and only exists and is seen in my visions and dreams. Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I'm looking forward to your reading on March 1st.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next up, we have Charles Colbean, and after Charles, we're going to have Ken, Peter, Walter, Susan, Beth, and Mike. Take it away, Charles.
Apologies. Following a love poem. This poem is called Post Love Apocalypse. And apologies also to Josephine, who's heard this before. At first, I didn't miss it, as if my daughter had only taken a couple of ones from my wallet and not the 50. Then it became apparent that other things had begun to disappear with it. A great divorce, photographs from the hallway, the better of my 2 hammers, Streisand records, my pillow, featherless, emptied of dreams, and God's love off somewhere in some other universe. At the mall, my neighbors wandered with dull eyes, uncombed hair, and none of them could bring themselves to buy anything, which seemed bad for the economy. And we were all just going through the motions, autonomic, like blinking and breathing in and out, only now there was a nameless ache in our lungs. I couldn't help but wonder what would take love's place, if anything, if we were all in for a bad time, hate and not hope, or exhaustion settling in, or maybe year-round nuclear winter, where no one dared have a night out. Would children even bother to be born, or remain formless and breathless hereafter? I admit I didn't like our odds. There's a vista point on a steep cliff, up the coast road a few hours' drive, a turnout where lovers and suicides would go to step into their yearning. And I confess I stopped there and looked down for a long time, listening to the ceaseless traffic of wave upon wave, into the wind at wave's end, drained of purpose, stumbling up the abrupt yellow edge of the world, searching everywhere for one last thing. Then I saw her, standing at the rail, the wind made whole at last in her hair. She too listening, her lips an isthmus waiting to be crossed. Thank you.
Wow. Always amazing. I always love listening to you, Charles. Okay, next up we have Ken Holland, Peter Kozlowski, Walter, Susan, Beth, and Mike. Okay, Ken Holland, please unmute and share.
I will be sharing, thank you. And the features have been fantastic, and waiting for the third. 2 poems. This first one uses the anaphora form. It's called Recapitulation. In the speculative yearbook of youthful suicide, here's a class photo of those who were deeply desperate, yet managed to survive. In the speculative yearbook of racial equality, Blacks have given whites the right to vote, as long as they don't get too uppity. In the speculative yearbook of hardcore nativism, prayerful evangelicals have forgiven God for fathering a son with the olive tint of an immigrant. In the speculative yearbook of wildebeest migration, the instinct of fear has finally passed in the wake of the days of mass deportation. In the speculative yearbook of marital relations, the person next to me is still a stranger, but no longer leaves the bed when I ask if I can touch her. In the speculative yearbook of artificial intelligence, the line AI has offered to complete this poem fails to distinguish which intelligence is more alone. The second poem is very short. It is a play on the Disney story of Beauty and the Beast, but it's called Beauty and the Least. When I lean toward words, I lean toward their beauty, the ones that shimmy with grace, the ones that show their lineage and pedigree, which, of course, sounds quite elitist, but only to those who believe beauty should be the least of it. Thank you for listening.
And thank you, Ken. Thank you again. Thank you for coming. Okay, we're off to a very good start this year. Next up, we're going to have Peter Kozlowski.
Hi,
He's unmute and share.
I think I'm unmuted. You hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's just I got this feeling somehow that a lot of things are changing. Like the ground is liquefying. You know, in an earthquake, they say that's what happens. The ground, in effect, liquefies and things move around. Anyway, reminds me of this poem of mine from recently. It's called "I'll Be a Noun When I Die." Tumbled, soaking, imitation life flavored, pasteurized, processed, standing, necklaced, smell around you, desert-like, toe tagged. When all is still, the bike falls over. You can't look down when you're walking on the water. Reading people's minds, I'd rather have a talker. You know what you're thinking, braceleted, awkward, not shaken, learned not to burn, frozen dairy dessert, not stirred, stirred. God's name is a verb and so am I. My body can be a noun when I die. I can get to that later, in plenty of time. Someone is down on the tracks at some other station, identifying as a verb in a disordinary location. We can all try being dead now for 15 minutes. Pavement pounding paused, and the infrastructure's drumming, gradually echoing down in diminishing ripples in the suddenly temporary body at rest. The universe is a verb. It keeps growing, plus it wiggles. We've gone 10,000 miles since the train wheels stopped turning, because to steer clear of the black holes, you got to keep flying. Stand clear of the closing doors. Okay, now here we go. You know, Sheol is a noun, and so is a black hole. That's it.
Thank you, Peter. That was great. I like the verbs and the nouns. Boy, to be a noun when I die. This hope. Okay. Next up, we're going to have Walter Holland, Susan Murray, Beth S.K. Morris, and Mike Jakovic. Walter, welcome. Please unmute and share. Walter? Is Walter here? Okay, he's not here. Walter, okay, going on. We'll go back to him. Okay, Susan Murray, would you like to unmute and share?
Yes, thank you.
Thank
So
you.
nice to be here today to experience this amazing poetry. I just have a short one called Pinery Beach, which is situated on Lake Huron at a provincial park in Ontario. The deep dune is an amphitheater where gulls gather, actors swooping, chattering, crying out their lines against the backdrop of the pulsing riptide, lapping along the smooth shoreline, erasing footprints that lasted only for moments. That's it.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Beautiful. Okay, Beth S.K. Morris, please unmute and share.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm going to read two poems today that were inspired by the fact that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. may become the head of Health and Human Services, I believe. The first one is from a book that's coming out. I have some notations in the chat room about it. And it's called Epidemic, Lake Hopatcong, New Jersey. Newly built houses spread across the mountaintops. Homeowners escaping the polio epidemic raging in the city. My father takes the Delaware Lackawanna from Hoboken, travels 2 hours on the train. We are warned not to leave our room, not to greet him at the porch door. He rushes past us to the bathroom, strips off his clothes, showers with yellow soap and steaming hot water. Only then can we hug him, sit down to dinner. Disinfectant lingers on his body, stifles the smell of hamburgers on his plate. Epidemic, Brooklyn, New York. It's Marlene's 10th birthday. We give my sister her presents, try our best to be festive. Still in our party dresses, Mother whisks us out the door in time to take the trolley to the hospital. Marlene's best friend Linda couldn't come to the party. She's in the polio ward in an iron lung. Linda looks like a baby doll trapped in a metal box with her head sticking out. My sister walks as close to Linda as the nurse will allow. I hide behind my mother's skirt, afraid to listen to Linda's scratchy voice, hear her try to speak. Before we leave, we hand the nurse a piece of cake. Don't stay long enough to watch Linda try to eat it. Stay indomitable, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, Beth. Thank you for sharing. Beautiful. Very explicit, very excellent imagery. Okay, we're going to end this second round before we move on to the final feature and the rest of the open. Mike Jakovic, take it away.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming out tonight. Today, I left some information on caps in the chat. I'm going to do two short pieces. This one has been redone over the course of about 30 years, and it's called My Love Don't Dream, She Vignettes. My love don't dream, she vignettes of 3 cats in a universe of mad deco design, where chimps repose in rose boxes and people from the past parlay with punks like me in priestly attire. Town crier with mambo stick unlocks the clocks that blocks all whim, setting free upon a sea of no truer than true absurdity of candy cane and ravage. Take that, you savage swivel eye. My love don't dream, she vignettes. And this one is called Dense Thickets. It's a new one, and it begins with a quote from Mr. Chekhov. Any idiot can face a crisis. It's day-to-day living that wears you out. Yeah, you fuck up. My God, who doesn't swear by Murphy's Law? Born in the shanties of County Kirby in the Peregrine Sea, just south of Marlockies, where stout flows free and girls dance real close for 5 shillings. So O'Malley warns the service advisor who takes it to Maury, the top floor guy. A convoluted route, I grant you, but it keeps the cops away from O'Mara's, where wisdom rhymes and the song. Well, the song is the song of every man who has compromised his holy verse, and the cover-up begins. Dense thickets, dark shadows. Yeah, the mind goes to strange places when you're not paying attention to the matter at hand. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Mike. Beautiful, thank you. Caps is a great reading, so please check it out if you haven't been there. Okay, now we're going to move on to the final feature. And then we're going to move on to the open mic, the final open mic, who will be Josephine LeRae, Helene Fisher, Dorothy Cantwell, myself, and Roxanne. Okay, let me just adjust this for a second. Sorry, I got to get this on the... I'm sorry, everybody. I just want to get this working here. Okay, very good. Okay, David Groff's third book of poems, Live in Suspense, was published in 2023. His previous book, Clay, was chosen by Michael Waters for the Louise Bogan Award. His first collection, Theory of Devolution, was selected by Mark Doty for the National Poetry Series. He is the co-editor of the anthologies Persistent Voices, Poetry by Writers Lost to AIDS, and Who's Your Daddy? Gay writers celebrate their mentors and forerunners. An independent book editor, he teaches poetry, nonfiction, and publishing at the MFA Creative Writing Program at the City College of New York. He's at davidgroff.com. Let's give a warm Brownstone welcome to David Groff. He's a wonderful writer. I love his books. Take care. Okay, take it away, David.
Thank you, Patricia, and thank you, Roxanne, and my thanks to all of you listening today and for your poems, and my fellow poets, Michael and Allison, for their fine and really distinctive and vivid work. I am going to be reading some new poems tonight and one older poem and a few that I've been on my mind from my book, Live in Suspense, which you can check out via the chat if you want. But first, I wanted to start with a Brownstone poem. And as a New Yorker for about 907 years, I thought I had a lot of Brownstone poems. And I have a lot of city poems, and I'll read one or two others of those today. But I found one Brownstone poem that I figured I would read today. It's called The Sense of Well-Being. At dusk's inexact instant, the brownstone sounds, the dishes clicking in kitchens, the whippet's hollow whine, a siren, someone's distant Spanish, disappear into silence until the street is a hollow thing, beyond all murmuring, your footsteps as crisp as a clock. You lack all recrimination, pure as traffic hum, like a bum who doesn't ask for change, with all the commerce halted, all the longing gone. This next poem is a January poem. I seem to write whenever the weather is doing whatever the weather's doing, and so I seem to be subject to climate change in my poetry. And this is a poem that has a homonym at the end. You'll hear it, two words that are spelled differently and mean different things, but sound the same. To a fly inside in January. See how far you have come, autumn done, frosts flung, or sprung from indoor larva, and still so young, the glimmer of heat, your fake summer. But still the window light and its clear cold hold you as if you know what's outside is right, even if its freeze deceases you. I too brood for what's not good for me, but right, the cold light, to be no longer between the pain, and the pain. This poem is called Nicknamed. Only to Mike was I always Dave, not the full and formal name I bore, fitting for the rigid boy I was and for the gay one I would be. Queers taking on the whole man's marker, a claim for the birth name that felt denied. For him, I was Dave, as if I were casual, and he was Mike, the regular guy, as if he too were an offhand one, though he was tensed, deliberate, poised, posed as if he had to run, who'd learned to straighten himself up, buck up, and there was something retreated and hurt in the longing vowel he made of me, his Iowa voice so kind and precise. I hear it now as if he isn't dead, as if I never fully heard him. Mike, his legacy obit said, his own Michael unrecalled, the fallen name and angels, and the name he bore before me in the bars and shed when that life became too harsh, like the bar at dawn with its house lights on, empty of the men who left him empty, empty of Dennis, who had no nickname, but I call brazen, wild, of fire, the one who left him and went on to die, who widened Mike's own private wound. Mike and Dave, in bed together. Dave, newly shed of his short I, hard D. Dave, the one who said Mike, a click on the tongue, like a kiss with teeth. We were too tangled to hang on our names. Dave died. He disappeared into David, beloved, with two consonants, two vowels, a name that buries avid hard at either end. Now you are Michael, an unnicked man, a non-diminutive, the faintest angel, my Michael, who is a gift from God. This next poem has an epigraph, and I think I'll read it first. It's from supposedly from a turn of the century actress named Mrs. Patrick Campbell. And the epigraph is a quotation from her. My dear, I don't care what they do, so long as they don't do it in the street and frighten the horses. This poem's called The Unfrightened Horses. Nothing in your walk will make them start or snort in dismay or strain their traces. You've grown into an ordinary man who strove so long to be irregular. Your gait and goading aimed to be so queer, your pivoted swish would be a swagger. Your every jaywalk cruise so hot, the cops would never help you out, and Republicans would call you Satan's elf. Today, you note how all the other elves and all their private grinding never note your remnant of a revolution. Your flight not blipping on their radar, gray as you are, old nag, your style askew, queer in the stale, unepithetted meaning, belabored, dated as an urban horse. You hardly want to be saddled and riven. Desire now, desire for desire. A veteran of a war gone quaint, a living statue of a mount who can't slip the bit of the man he made. You walk the street and eye the steady steeds, remaining still an ebbing organism. Your body now gone as dry as orgasm. All of yourselves still harnessed for a time. All of you soon to be glue, which binds. This next poem is a little different in spirit, and it was actually kind of a on request occasional poem, which is kind of a shock for me to write, to have actually someone ask me for a poem. But there is this anthology you may have heard of called Invisible Strings, 113 Poets Respond to the Poems of Taylor Swift. So I was asked to contribute to this, and this is a hard thing to do, to figure out how to enter into a Taylor Swift poem and turn it into poetry. But the book is doing really well. It's getting all the Swifties involved. And I was finally able to find my way into a Taylor Swift song, and I'm not allowed to tell you which one it is. Since all of you I know are Swifties, you're going to have to guess. It's called We Have. You and I, we have no West Egg mansion shiny with money, where Gangster Jay, with his fake fancy name and attitude, his high-class crap and cunning guests, waves his display like a trophy, a lure across the bay for Greenlight Daisy, who never truly lets him dock until she breaks him of his having with the stiletto of her carelessness, then lifts her bubbly glass to toast her own shrugging, shatterproof heart. We have no swimming pool, no view, no body of water to yearn across, no square feet for even a tiny party, no flutes in the Formica cabinet, no dish unchipped, no spoon unbent, no graying chair that will not give too much, nothing on the walls but dust. Having nothing really present but our bed, sprung, worn down, and weighted with what is one-on-one and mostly true. The two of us, shabby and sleepy, as we swim to the dock we built and share, with all its splinters and ragged seams, lying in our own green light. Here's another New York poem. You should know that I have a real fear of bridges, well, including the most gorgeous ones in New York. I was lucky to be have a one-day residency in a program called Poets Afloat, where I was interacting as a poet, among other poets, with New York Harbor. And this is one of the poems that came out of it. And it's called Suspense. Building this bridge, they died, venturing into the pilings, then rising inside caissons too fast. Their lungs exploded. Though dying, they taught their survivors the science of pressure, how humans might measure, defy, and heighten their depths. From those gravestones hangs the swaying weight of suspension, the waver of roadway, the roar of undulation that, in tension with vibration, a flaw in the aeroelastics, a flutter as in the atria in some perfected resonance, can send the structure down. As will happen, my car and I plunging into seconds of suspense, piercing New York Harbor, pausing to consider what it means to float, then descending into a building darkness, then definite darkness, becoming within the bay a human place, my capsule of car and body unsuspended and resting, the rightful waters seeping and then sweeping in before the divers arrive to pull me back to the sun, my heart bursting. I'm going to read a final poem, which is a companion piece to the first one, and also is a poem I'm realizing about being suspended in a different way, and in a way that doesn't terrify me as much as bridges do. It's a poem you'll see that takes place on an airplane. And again, thank you all for listening. I really appreciate it. I'm glad we're all gathered today. The sense of well-being. That cloud seems so benign at 30,000 feet, friendly even in its billows, and the plane itself in awe that we can do this thing, the techno hurdle of travel, and hardly ever die from it, even as I know it thaws the globe and kills. Fixed and sitting in its thrust, in this limited instant, I can trust the pilot, these plastics, all the cold aluminums, the theory of aerodynamics, and the level habit of velocity, to point me forward into a night of nows. Like the air blast from that valve, the absence of anxiety chills me, cushioned and cushioned, every handle turned and secured, my breath and pressure exempted from the altitude. The old man behind me deft at his crossword, the hairy-legged ginger spread into the aisle, the baby mildly screaming. I relax and enjoy the flight, my position locked and upright, nothing to do but buckle down and await the initial approach.
Mm,
Thanks very much.
wow. That bridge one really, wow. Awesome.
Thank you. Thanks all.
I hate to say it, but I love bridges. You're gonna hate me. I love the Brooklyn Bridge and the Verrazano
You're a
Narrows.
better,
I
braver
take so
human
many
than I
pictures
am.
of Verrazano Narrows, not even funny.
Oh, they're fun to look at, but
I know, but don't cross them, especially stay out of Staten Island.
yeah. Thank you all.
Oh, thank you, David. Okay, we got back to the open. We have 4 people left. We have Josephine LeRae, Dorothy Cantwell, myself, and Roxanne. Josephine, take it away.
Hi, thank you. It's been wonderful to be here. It's very inspiring. I'd like to acknowledge that where I live is the ancestral and traditional lands of the Piikani, Tsuut'ina, Nakota, Kainai, and Siksika peoples, and that's Calgary, Alberta. And I'm currently in Southern California, so I'd like to acknowledge the Kumeyae, if I'm saying them right. It was the anniversary of T.S. Eliot's birth last week, a few weeks ago. And so I've got 2 poems based on that. And the first one, Allison, you inspired me to read that one this time. So the first one is called Above the Surface. Only 5% of slugs live above the surface, it is said, though how they survive with no legs, no arms, no bones, no shell is a mystery to me. It seems they would be much safer and dark underground. Are they like the worm whose entire body is an extended digestive tract, no mouth to stomach to anus in one straight line? Their task simple, to eat, decompose, enrich, create soil. They don't need eyes. What is my task? Why so many complicated systems? Lungs, heart, veins, arteries, capillaries. That's easy. We need oxygen to survive. But why legs? Why not trunk and roots like the lime green-leaved honey locust tree, which grows beside that amethyst jewel of a house against slate gray summer storm sky? And why arms? Things keep slipping from me, slinking just out of reach. Why not branches on which the cross-billed finch, russet yellow-green, and the iridescent blue-crested stellar jay could roost? And why bones, so easily broken by sticks and stones and words? Words said, unsaid. Would I be not better off without them, more able to curl into a ball or burrow into fecund earth? And why not a shell into which to retract when danger is sensed? When I was a child, I would pull snails off the white-tailed walls of my godfather's fish market, feeling the tug, hearing the shuck, then touching each tentacle with a curious fingertip to watch the slow dance of retreat. Or to be a hermit crab, to find refuge in someone else's carapace, or like Eliot, a pair of ragged claws scuttling across the floors of silent seas. And then my second one is called Hollow. And it is here. We are the wilderness, the wonderment, the waste. We are the room, the women, Michelangelo. We are April, the cruelest month. We come and go, shall wear the bottoms of our trousers rolled. We'll eat a fresh picked peach, walk a hard-packed beach, the sand cool beneath our toes. Beneath our toes, the cool sand of this California beach, imprint leading toward an unconcluded past. We are occluded, shadow of our wrongdoings, figment of our undoing. The toll of our own bell, the cold and empty shell, the ghost of former selves, mirror with no reflection, pain without projection, flame without affection, a shimmer
of our future selves, unread volumes on the shelves, murky waters into which we dare not delve. We are the rattle of rust-bound chains, the clank of troubled brains, graffiti scrawled on side of derailed trains. We are unmedicated sleep. We are swans in boggy field, barn owl screeching for a mate. We are breathless. We are hollow. We are. Thank you.
Beautiful. Exquisite, exquisite. Wow, wow.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next up we have Dorothy Cantwell, myself, and Roxanne. Dorothy, unmute and share.
Okay, Josephine, amazing, amazing, beautiful poetry, as always. Thank you, Patricia and Roxy, for having the wonderful event, and all the poets tonight. Just really great. I have two little poems. One I decided to read because of the two moon poems earlier in the evening or in the afternoon. And this one is a moon poem. It's called Triangle Moon. I see the moon as she waxes full, and the moon sees me. I raise my face to her hard, cold light and whisper my secret. At this moment, somewhere in the world, you see the moon, and yet you are so many miles and so many years away.
Mm.
And this one is called Baiser de Traître. December snow on a red tree looked like cherry blossoms as I turned the concrete corner of winter. My heart opened like spring out of sync, unwitting, disarmed, beguiled for a beat as winter dressed as spring in its moment of deceit. Then a laughing blast of cold wind knocked me from my feet. His icy prankster fingers savage in my tangled scarves, gleefully relishing my naked fleeting trust. The tender kiss before betrayal, sweet sadistic caress before the slap, the smile before the flash of the knife. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Beautiful. Oh, it's my turn. And then Roxanne. Two poems, one very sweet and one not so sweet. Let's start with a nice one. Now and then, in remembrance of, inspired by Samara Joy. We are the breeze that travels across shores and oceans to the stars and planets, to a different universe. Our thoughts manifested this breeze, not deciphered by the ancients and contemporaries. You're gone, but you're still here. You're not confined to shadows, nor the light that crosses this doorway. We are more than a haiku moment. Time has no restrictions when life has quantum possibilities. Death might have ended the story. We can write another. Okay, now here's the one I promised because I'm wearing this shirt today. Well, the real president of the United States. And I didn't think this would happen again. This is like, okay, a capital offense. A quid pro quo threw knives into the government's heart. A coup to reinstate an orange plague almost happened. Combustion fueled by messianic idiocy used privilege to smash windows and attempt abduction of evidence for a nation's choice. But threats will not cease. Shutting down a malevolent man's Facebook or Twitter accounts will not end a war used as landfill to hide the truth for more than 4 years. A new Messiah will rise, carried a mob's banner that fell on the Capitol steps. We forget that this stolen nation was born from unrest, greed, and phobias. We are not safe. When Black lives don't matter, when Indigenous people disappear, when ICE puts shackles on brown wrists, when one person's God is the only God, when women's uteruses are no longer theirs, when people can't express their love for another, when age becomes a negative number, when the list for injustice keeps getting longer. The earth is dying as we speak. Shit happened in Europe. It can also happen here. And this was written in January 7th, 2021, the day after the insurrection. I'm sorry I had to read it again. And we're going to move on to Roxanne Huffman, who's going to bless the reading.
Thank you, Patricia. I'm going to read two from a workshop that occasionally happens. It's a respite workshop that happens at Pen and Brush. And these are ekphrastic poems that were based on artwork from a show that was hanging in that gallery. So the first one is called Remains, and it's after Heather Goodwin's Venus with Diamond Earrings. Remains. Mama always said, wear pretty panties. Don't share your dirty laundry or talk with strangers. But when my sister went gone, all that remained were pearly whites and crystal earrings, not a shred of cloth or skin to bury or burn. The second one is Spoken after Shamana Stokes Lepa do Petra. Spoken. I hear the vibration of your antenna, the flutter of wings as you exit, sense in your teeny breeze the salt of an ancient Greek zephyr drifting in from the sea, or maybe something mustier and musky like a man, like Homer returning from his great adventure, but still restless and unsure of his reception. This gentle caress, born of my witness, grazing my cheek, stirring through follicles of silver hair to breeze my scalp, whispering in the lingo and languor of lust. Your electric blue mind sings to me, even in the darkness of these stone-deaf ears and sightless gray eyes. Hope blazes bright and blue. Thanks, everybody. I hope you all had a wonderful time. I know I did. What fabulous features and what a fabulous open today.
Thank you. Thank you, Roxanne. Beautiful. I love your abecedarians. Oh, we're going to come back not in February because we're not going to be available. Come back March 1st, which is the following Saturday. We're going to have Martina McGowan, Kim D. Brandon, and our Glenda Pickens here. You heard her work? Come back for more. And stay safe. Keep fighting a good fight because we're not giving up. I'm not giving up. You can unmute and schmooze. And I'm going to be reading in next week in the East Meadow. I'm going to be at East Meadow Library with what's his name again? I'm sorry about this. But the performance poetry. I did post something here with Douglas. What's his last name? I apologize. Oh goodness. Just exit. Yeah. Something's wrong with my thing here. Exit full screen. Okay. Yeah, I have it right here. If I can get there. Performance Poetry, Poets Association at the Saturday Poetry at East Meadow Library, Saturday, February 1st from 1 to 3, East Meadow Library at 1886 Front Street. It's near the Long Island Railroad, with Douglas G. Sweezy. I'll be reading with him, and I know it's Long Island, but if you're out there, please come on over and share. It's also going to be an open mic. Anybody else with shameless plugs here?
Yeah, just coming out to CAPS next Friday, the February 3rd, if you can. I put all the information up there. Thanks for a great reading, everybody. Patricia, Roxanne, thank you.
I have a shameless plug. I just received this incredible review of my last collection of poetry, In My Father's House, written by Patricia. So thank you so much for that, Patricia.
We're going to try and find a home for it.
Yes.
And I would just call your attention to the Artful Dodgers poetry invitation that I posted in the chat for, I guess it's the last Sunday of February, 23rd, I think.
And I want to give a big Brownstone thank you to our features, Michael Broda, Allison Patty, David Groth, the Open Micers, Roxanne Hoffman, Brooklyn, Canada, France, the rest of the United States, the Virgin Islands, the British Virgin Islands, everybody in the world. We're here as one. We want world peace. We don't want to. We're not naming the Gulf of Mexico. I'm sorry. It's the. It's not going to be America. Sorry.
Tricia, could I do a quick thing? I'm
Please
going to
do.
be
Please do.
featuring
Please
for
share.
Evie Ivy on Wednesday at the Green Pavilion. For what it's worth. Oh, well.
Okay. Thank you so much for sharing. Listen.
Ron, can you put the information in the chat?
I've never really figured out how to do that.
Just type it in.
It's real easy. Just type it in.
Type it into everyone.
Where's the chat? Oh, I see it there.
Look down here. Look down. It's
I'll
right
figure
next
out
to.
how
It's
to do that
between
next time, but it's
participants
just
and React.
Evie Ivy's reading at the Green Pavilion this Wednesday. If that's okay.
Why don't you put your email in the chat? And this way, if anybody wants to come, they can reach out to you and you can forward the information.
Okay. So where do you oh, I see. Okay. Okay.
I think I captured it. Did you say Easy Ivy reading?
Yeah.
Evie Ivy hosts a reading in Brooklyn.
Okay.
The Green Pavilion reading, which is actually at the Green Pavilion restaurant.
Nice.
Right.
Did I actually
Under the
do that
chandeliers in the back room.
right? Right.
Hey, buddy.
Okay. Take care, everyone.
Okay, bye-bye, Canadian. Bye-bye, Canadian friends.
Keep warm.
Bye, folks.
Keep
Thank you so
solid.
much.
Take care.
Yes,
Thank you all.
yes.
Keep writing, everybody. Keep
We will.
writing.
You too.
Everybody
Bye-bye.
be good.